we've created. Go ahead, Corinne.
This is kind of a legal question. First, I don't think the homeowner should pay for the right-of-way. But is there a way that they cover the driveway part of it? Because they are doing the wear and tear on their driveways. So we shouldn't have to replace the driveway part of it. But the sidewalk part of it, I don't think they should be required to replace.
That's a good point. Yeah, I like that idea.
I don't think it's a legal question. I mean, the legal question is obviously our ordinance allows us to recoup our costs or to charge the homeowner with maintaining their sidewalk. However, as the mayor indicated, the case law would indicate is we cannot, through ordinance, absolve ourselves of the legal liability and responsibility of maintaining that sidewalk. So from a practical perspective, what the ordinance allows us to do is if we got sued for a trip and fall on a sidewalk, you know, we would have the right to go back on that homeowner for any money that we would have. We would have maybe a subrogation right, similar in an insurance industry. But whether that sidewalk is within that driveway and beyond the apron or not, we're still going to have the same legal liability for it. I think this is less of a legal issue and more of a public policy issue as to what the role of government is. Should government provide for these sidewalks, or, you know, should we push that on to the homeowner? But then you've got, and I was discussing this with the mayor today, you know, let's say there's 500 residents that don't pay their assessment or don't want to fix their sidewalk. Are we now going to be in a position that we want to lien their property? Are we going to file suit against them? You know, so I think those are difficult. The practical side of that ordinance is difficult.
I mean, as a homeowner, and to several homeowners I've talked to, they all kind of agree with the right-of-way. We shouldn't have to charge the homeowners. It should be the city. But then the driveway, like personally, if my driveway was buckling, I would feel that's my responsibility because my car is driving up and down the driveway. So I would not have a problem with fixing that. But the right-of-way, I would have a problem with. But that's just my personal, I don't know what everybody else here thinks.
I think Jack put it pretty well with me. I mean, the way he had mentioned it to me earlier was, is the city going to put itself in the position where we begin to lien, you know, an 80-year-old woman's house who's on a fixed income because she's not paying for the replacement of her sidewalk?
Yeah. Hey, you're
so
stepping
we have to
on toes here.
Yeah, really, you're getting close. Getting close
We're nowhere near 80. Stop.
That's exactly what I was going to say, especially on the older side of town, which I think he called it the north side. I call it the west side. Mm-hmm. You've got all these older houses. A lot of them are in foreclosure already. And so, you know, what are you going to do? Put liens on them? It's not going to do any good if they're in foreclosure. I think, and like you said, too, the elderly people live over on the west side, too, more so than the newer side. And so if you're going to do it for one side, you got to do it for the other side, I would think. But I have a problem with homeowners being charged that, too, because a lot of times what happens is some people want the sidewalks, and a lot of people don't want them because of the assessment. I know I don't want one on my street because of that. I don't want to have, I don't want to be responsible for any more outgoing money than I have to. But yeah, I mean, that's how I feel. I feel like the city should take care of the sidewalks. It's a service that we provide. Yeah,
we have to kind of ask ourselves, what do we expect of the city? You know, police service and fire service, clearing the snow, maintaining the roads, and I think maintaining the sidewalks falls in there. Go ahead, Mr. Biox.
Let me throw one more little wrinkle in the decisions here. The decision of whether you take option 1 or option 2. Option 2 is a deeper grinding. I would point out to you that recognizing how the sidewalks got built in the era, that the area that needs to have the most they formed it with a 2x4, so there's not a 4-inch thick sidewalk. So the grinding that you're talking about could actually get down to the point where all of a sudden you expose panels that are going to have to be replaced when you start grinding that much. So
yeah, that is a good point.
You might be opening up some additional obligation to repairs by taking the second option.
Yeah, I think and Precision Concrete does address this, and that's why they kind of stop at the 2-inch mark. Because if it is a 3.5-inch sidewalk or a 3.5-inch concrete, and you're shaving off 2 inches, now keep in mind that it gets thick quickly. That they've done studies on how much weight that can still handle, and I think that I don't remember offhand, but it's like they still say it's a 5,000 pound.
I understand my point.
Rating. I do. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
When I was looking at that study, they were able to go through all of the different sidewalks throughout the city, and they were able to find the trip hazards. But the bigger problems that I saw were the problems that Precision can't handle. The giant holes. I really think we might want to step back a little bit, and they provided us the data. So we have all the data with all of the really bad issues for the sidewalks. It's all there. I think we might need to start at that point.
Yeah, and start trying to
Before we
assemble a
move to
price of
trip
what
hazards.
the rest of the repairs would be.
Yeah, I mean, the trip hazards, don't get me wrong, they need to be fixed, but there were some giant issues.
So what would the normal process be? Would this be something that would be in the hands of the city engineer, or would this be more public works issue? To start to try to prepare cost estimates of what the rest of the repairs would be based on their survey.
I think they should go hand in hand. I mean, Rick and Jim work together all the time.
Start with a budget. I mean, is that something that we could do by lineal foot?
I think I explained to you at our meeting of the day some of the issues that are associated with that. It's just not replacement. And the areas that Betty is referring to are grade issues. And the grade issue leads itself to more than just replacing the sidewalk. It means changing the grade of the sidewalk, okay? And when you change the grade of the sidewalk, you also then impact the driveways and the sidewalks leading up to the house and steps. So it's more like a modified project like we did on Fitzgerald Court to construct the new sidewalk. So you can't really develop a price per linear foot. I can give you a price per linear foot, just replace it as it is at that grade, matching the existing turf and existing driveways. But I think the areas we're talking about, the difficult areas, are not like that. And it's a problem that you can't put your finger on the actual cost and expect to throw X amount of dollars in the budget and expect to do so many linear feet of sidewalk from that, depending on what street you pick. And it's just like our street projects. Every street's different and has different kind of conditions. Now, the areas down Stevenson Road, those that developed because of the highway department over the last 40 years paving the road, and they don't mill, they just add more blacktop. This road got higher and higher and higher, and pretty soon the street's higher than the sidewalk, and water's ponded on it. It's caused the concrete to rot and does need replacement. But if you replace it back at the same grade it is, you're just causing the problem to occur.
And so,
Confused everybody?
No, not at all. I
completely.
understand
Yeah, that makes
completely.
sense.
but just to be clear, so it would be kind of like doing a combination. So
I could give you
we could look at using Precision to do the milling part, or like the shaving down of the trip hazards. But then what they also identified is they came to some, sections of the sidewalk that they said it could not be, they can't do what they do on those, whether it be from tree roots or cracks
Right.
or
I can give you numbers
utilities.
for that.
or even portions of the sidewalk that got taken out for some reason or another and never put back. So it could be anything like that.
I can develop numbers for that based on putting it back as is.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I think that's what we would need to do.
So again, when we're talking about money, I'm going to come back to that again. Because we talked about this during the Public Works budget meeting. Mr. Viox was there, the mayor was there, the committee was there. We talked about that. So every year, Public Works has a street maintenance line item. And that's to take care of the repairs that they can take care of and do those panel replacements or the small repairs. The potholes and things like that. So again, we didn't put a number in here this year yet. So if in fact we're going to change this ordinance, which seems to be with a discussion that I'm hearing tonight, where we're going to start being responsible for the maintenance of these sidewalks, then we need to think about that and put a number in there and how we're going to go about doing that. We need to change the ordinance, and then we need to put some kind of line item in there, because when it comes to this, and Mr. Gallen or Mr. Wickman each can come into this, we need to have a plan as a city. And that plan to comply with ADA and all the other things, you know, to get this done. And as long as we have a plan and we're going forward with that plan, then we're pretty safe. We're not pretty safe, but we're safer than we are today without having anything in place to say, this is how we're going to address A, B, C, because we don't have that. So we need to figure out if, in fact, we're going to do this combination of whatever it is, but how are we going to fund it? What are we going to do first? Again, it's like the mayor, I think, said at the very beginning of this, elephant, how do we eat it? One bite at a time, and that's what we're just going to have to look at. But we need to have that plan set in place and adopted so that, in fact, we're protecting ourselves a little bit for the future.
Yeah, I mean, the ADA compliance issue concerns me. I've been involved in some of that litigation, as maybe Mr. Wickman and Mr. Blankenship have, and I mean, unfortunately, we kind of like have been put on notice tonight that we're not ADA compliant. I mean, some of this we kind of knew ahead of time, sure, but I think that we have to analyze which of those buildings are really used for the public, and that needs to be a part of the analysis, and then prioritize the ones that are clearly for the public, such as the Depot Park. Now, that's its own little interest because that's not our property, but we obviously are the leaseholder, and the railroad would be immune, so I agree. I think that we now need to develop that plan and focus on the ADA compliance issue of the public buildings. Buildings used for public use, I should say. They're all public buildings.
I have another question.
Sure.
Sorry. So since the firehouse study showed that if we do build a new one, it needs to go further east, northeast or whatever, what about if we, instead of putting money into the Public Works building that's not on our property, what about putting the Public Works building over by Showcase, where we were originally thinking of the firehouse?
We've had some of those discussions, yeah. Seeing
Or
what that looks like.
we could also put Public Works in Firehouse 1.
Yeah.
Public Works won't agree with you there.
Oh.
They it's not big enough, absolutely. See, he's back there shaking his head.
Okay.
And then my other statement was, I'm going to use a medical term. You could do like a triage of the sidewalks. You know, have,
That's true.
you
That's
know,
a
the
good
worst
idea.
shaped ones that need to be replaced is phase 1. And then on another plan, the worst ones for trip hazards is phase 1. And then, you know, have 2 separate plans, money for both, and then go phase 1, phase 2, phase 3.
I like that idea
Okay.
a
And
lot.
that study that Precision did, it broke it down to that level. It broke it down, it gave it, you know, just like
Yeah,
when
they
we
rated
saw
'em.
the facility study, it was to the extent for the sidewalks. And it pieced out each individual piece of sidewalk, so you can pinpoint exactly what's wrong with that piece of sidewalk. And we have access to that database, right?
Yeah. In fact, I've got thumb drives and I've got electronic versions of that. And if you're interested in taking a look at all, I mean, it's a thick report. But if you're interested in paging through that, I'll be happy to share it with you.
So Rick, I tried to open mine up today, the stuff that we had Matt put over, and that was each street by each dot or whatever that Ms. Fetty's talking about. It wouldn't open up for me. Have you been in it lately to try to open it? Yeah. So every street's in a folder that Matt Allen has created. I'll try to get it working tomorrow and send it to everybody. I couldn't open them today. I don't know why it wouldn't open, if it was just something with my computer.
I haven't tried it recently.
Yeah, I tried it today and it wouldn't open. So I'll see if Matt can't make sure it's there, because that's what he broke down each street. It was on that way. So I'll try to share it with everybody, and you can see exactly what Mrs. Fetty's talking about with each area and how it is.
Yeah, it may make more sense to treat it street by street, just so that we can kind of know that an area is done and be able to move on, rather than, be trying to address everything everywhere. But, yeah, I like those ideas. All right, any other discussion on sidewalks? Any other ideas? I know Mrs. Fetty's handed out a sheet here on the hiring event. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, this was just an idea I had. I went to the Area Development District meeting last month. I wasn't able to talk about it because I wasn't here last meeting. But they do this really cool thing. They have hiring events from July 2016 to the end of November 2016. They had 147 hiring events. There were 106 employers that participated in these hiring events. 725 interviews were done at the hiring event. I thought that was an amazing thing that they're getting accomplished, and I thought we could do something like that in Erlanger. So we can advertise to our Erlanger businesses and have them, I put a month time frame for them to gather their different jobs that they are going to be posting, set up, I guess we have to see how much interest that there is in this to see where it would need to be held, whether it need to be here in the chamber, or if we need to do it at receptions or Lloyd Gym, or the library. There's a couple different options, and then advertise it to all of Northern Kentucky residents. So it would be specifically for Erlanger businesses to get their jobs placed, but we'd open it up to all Northern Kentucky residents. It would be a great way to advertise our local businesses and have people coming into our city, see what we're doing for our businesses. Hiring event could be April 29th. That would give us about a 2-month time frame to set it up. It's just an idea. I mean, all the dates can change. I thought, going into spring might be a good time to do something different. For advertisement purposes, put out a press release on our website and our Facebook page, potentially putting out like a Facebook ad, spend like $20 or $30 to have it run for 2 weeks. Easy to get River City News involved, WLWT, they'd be happy to get the word out. So, just an idea. Thought I'd throw it out there to you.
I like the idea. Does NKADD actually host the event?
No.
Or we would
just
host
be
it?
ours.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I just got the idea from sitting
Okay,
there
okay.
listening to them and seeing how beneficial it was. I mean, I thought it was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So.
Any other thoughts or ideas on there? Is this something that we've tried before?
I think it fits with what we're trying to do. We had this discussion today with Public Works and increasing applicants. The city could be one of those.
Yeah.
So,
That's great, yeah.
That would be awesome.
Would you like to spearhead this?
Yeah.
All right,
Very cool.
thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Any other items to discuss?
I have kind of one, just a quick one. I don't have my notes with me or anything, but I just thought we kind of mentioned Stevenson Road, and so I thought I'd bring this up. You know how down the road, we want Stevenson Road replaced. And so I made some phone calls and did some investigating on how we go about doing this, and it's a long, tedious process, which we know from the Showcase Road. But I know a couple people had said to me, well, I'd rather have Stevenson Road before the Showcase Road. And I just want to say you can't switch them. I don't know if people know that or not. You can't say, don't do this and do this one instead. It doesn't work that way. So I just want everybody to know the process would be, it has to get sponsored by like OKI, which is what we were thinking of trying to maybe get them to sponsor it next year. So OKI would sponsor getting Stevenson Road replaced, and then it goes into like a phase of ranks, and it gets put on the plan on how far down it goes, but it can't even get put on the plan without a sponsor. So
I never knew that.
yeah, so, and I just wanted to bring this up because I didn't want anybody to call Frankfurt and say, hey, can you switch out Stevenson Road for, what the heck, Houston? Because all that would do is just not get us Houston either, and Houston is not a done deal because they budgeted the money for it, but they have more roads that they have in the budget than they actually have money, so it could get bumped, so we want to make sure to be very cautious about what we do there. But I mean, I know Jessica and I were, a couple of us was talking about getting a committee together to maybe present a plan to OKI for next year to get them to sponsor it. And that's just a step one, and it's going to be a while. But I just wanted to give you the information that I found out.
That's cool.
Tom Cahill, would you be willing to work with that? Okay, good. I know he, as our OKI representative, he's more familiar with that
Yeah,
than
we had
any of us
talked.
probably. Good, thank you.
What is the process to form a
Yeah, I mean, so the Houston Road, I mean, we do need to keep in mind, the money that's been allocated there is just to study it.
Right,
So,
yeah.
it would be nice to at least get to that step with Stevenson.
Yeah.
But, yeah, okay.
What is the process to form a subcommittee? How do we go about, I mean, is that something that we need to do here?
I mean, I could either form an ad hoc committee or,
Because I know that's,
Is that you?
no, it's not.
Yeah, but you have it.
yeah. Yeah, so I think, we'll go ahead and say informally right now that it would be Mrs. Fetty, Mrs. Pitts, and Mr. Cahill. Okay.
Randy.
And Randy.
Mr. Blankenship?
And then I thought
Okay.
we could bring in 2 citizens, which haven't been chosen yet.
Okay. Do you already have people in mind?
I have one in mind,
Okay,
the Bagley, Mr. Bagley.
okay.
Either Mr. or Mrs. Bagley would be good.
Okay.
We can't hear a word you're saying over here.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Either Mr. or Mrs. Bagley.
They live on
They live on Rainbow Terrace.
Rainbow Terrace?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
And if anybody else has a suggestion of a citizen that might be interested in,
Probably get somebody from Stevenson.
Yeah.
somebody along
Stevenson.
the line.
Someone from Stevenson? Yeah.
Try to get a whole bunch off that one.
I could potentially
Which
get
Audi lives on
the,
Stevenson?
Huh?
Which Audi lives?
Two Audis live on Stevenson. They live next to each other.
Any other ideas?
We're just thinking one of the Audis, we could approach them.
Principal or-
They would be interested,
Yeah, I
I
think
think,
so,
if they've
too.
got the time, yeah. I was thinking of him too,
Dave,
but maybe
yeah.
one of his sons or
Yeah. Because it would impact them, so it'd be good to have.
Mark, like
Yeah.
Mark.
I could potentially get the owner of the Snappy franchise. That might be good to pull in a business
business.
owner along Stevenson.
Get Grammars.
Grammars, yeah, they've been there for
Been there
years.
forever. The nursery.
Mr. Bogart, do you remember the person that had the lateral line issue on Stevenson Road? Do you remember that name? It's in the 500 block. I could remember that, but I couldn't remember, yeah. Okay, would you do that and send it to the mayor tomorrow? Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, any other discussion on that?
This is totally off what we've been discussing all night long, but I've been told
The
that
whole
the
meeting's
Dixie
like
High School cheerleaders won a national title.
Right.
And I know some of the kids that were on that team live in Erlanger, so I would like for us to do something for them.
Mr. Blankenship had sent me an email with that same request, and I believe we're working on a resolution, and we're going to have them here at the next meeting.
Awesome sauce. Just
Great
forget I
minds.
said anything.
Yeah.
You'll have your whole group of brain surgeons you got.
It's really cool.
It is.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Get
Yeah.
that on
right.
TV.
And Matt Allen's niece won a national gymnastics competition, and she also goes to Dixie.
National? Wow,
National.
She won the all-around,
incredible,
She won an all-around,
Orlando.
beam and floor and everything.
amazing.
Yeah, she's a neat girl, too.
All right, if there's no other discussion, I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn. Motion by Mrs. Kyle.
Yes.
Second by Mrs. Pitts. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Meeting adjourned.